Hi, I'm Andy Acton.
And I'm Chris Strevens.
This is Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. Speaking to Rana, it's fascinating that somebody can have such a diverse life experience that they're then able to pull together with a set of services and support kind of at the right time. But it's all based on the things that she's learned and she's been through.
Yeah, I found it marginally exhausting because she's so
a lot of energy.
She?
There's a lot of energy.
Unbelievable, really. It's fascinating. You know, her story, her journey, and how she's gone from the start to where she is now, and the fact of the giving back. And I think people will learn from it. I think for me, one of the key things is actually recognising when you listen. That you're recognising the point where actually you sort of have to do something.
Yeah. At that point about at what level does the pain need to get to before you make a change? Yeah. I think people will take a lot from that, and it's probably a great episode for people to reflect on and then decide what's the right course of action for them if they need to make definitely. Some changes of some
change
sort.
Or no change. Yeah,
no, fabulous episode. Fabulous episode. Monday morning, 7:00. What's that mean?
Coffee, pajamas, and cornflakes.
No, we're recording another podcast episode.
I remember it well. Yes, of course.
Well, today we're very, very fortunate. Very fortunate indeed. We have Rana Al-Falaki joining us. And Rana is a specialist periodontist, optimal performance strategist. Keen to find out more about what that is. And the founder of MedDent, the Leadership and Wellbeing Academy.
Phew.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am amazing. Thank you. I just have to ask, did you suffer from Sundayitis or is that not a thing anymore?
No, not at all.
We are hoo-ah.
Yeah. You are so happy on a Monday morning.
Yes, of course. I'm alive.
It's funny, isn't it? I think the Sundayitis thing, if that genuinely is something that hits you week by week, you're doing the wrong thing. Because you shouldn't feel this impending doom on a Sunday because you're going to do the thing that occupies 5 days of your week on a Monday. That is a terrible way to live. Would you agree?
6 days or 7 days. You're a dentist, right? On 24 hours a day.
I think one of the benefits of getting older is you forget Sunday anyway. So you could be any old day as far as I know. Oh, it's another day.
But I think if you genuinely enjoy what you're doing, you don't kind of put it into a bucket of I do this then and I do that then. I think you're constantly turned on. You're constantly thinking of new ideas. You never really leave it when it's your own business or you're doing something that you really enjoy.
When you love it.
Yeah.
And that's the key, though. You have to end up loving it because you cannot detach from it and you get this label that it's who you are, especially in dentistry. You know, I'm a dentist or I'm a practice owner. And then you live it, breathe it 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, so many do get Sundayitis because of the stress and the worries about it. But you're absolutely right. If you can get to a point of flow where work doesn't feel like work, I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
It is. It's taken us a while.
Yeah, and we'll come on to that in the conversation, but it's definitely an issue within dentistry. And I think it's kind of multi-layered in terms of why people feel like that. But we'll get to that. We need to start.
Yeah, we don't want to depress people on a Monday morning.
We need to be uplifting.
We need to be running. Hoo-ah, hey.
So before we get into like the dental bit, can you give us some context on yourself, kind of who you are, your upbringing, what your childhood looked like? Because we've done a fair few of these and it's always the people. It's like who's talking, who are they, where did they come from, what are they about? And then it kind of gives so much more context to what we're going to talk about later on.
No pressure.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I grew up. Everything was really great. It's brilliant. Yeah, lovely.
No, everyone's interesting.
Damn, you just stole my line, Chris. I was well, the 11th of September, 1933, my mum hitchhiked on a lorry to Northwick Park Hospital in Harrow because my
Northwick Park Hospital.
My dad was missing. Yeah.
Ah, is that where you were born, Northwick Park Hospital?
I was when it was all new and dandy.
Yeah, doesn't look so new and dandy now, though.
There we go. I know. So born and bred in London, but that is actually a true story. My mother did, I had two older siblings, but they were like 3.5 years literally between us. By the time my mum was pregnant with me, it was like, oh my God, we can't afford another baby. What on earth are we going to do? It's the 70s. My dad had come over from Iraq and had studied business in Manchester. My mother wasn't working at that point. She'd come over to be with him in London. So she was Bahraini, and they didn't have any money. And so literally she got a ride on a lorry to go and give birth to me while my dad struggled with like a double buggy on a
Really?
bus. And my sister just thought, oh, what's this stupid bundle at the end of the bed? And that, I could say, that formed our relationship through the rest of our life.
Yeah, informative.
So you had
but you're a nuisance, Joe.
you had the choice of being a dentist or a long distance lorry driver. Those were your choices.
What type of lorry was it? No, not this.
Well, actually, let's be fair. You could potentially earn more being a lorry driver nowadays. Anyway, so to Arabic parents who were very highly educated.
Sorry, just a joke. That's a different type of delivery driver.
There we go.
Anyway, sorry, you were saying.
No, so just I was born and bred in London, never left London, and even through my studies, my parents were very highly educated, but certainly didn't come from a significantly rich background. But my mother ended up working for the Emirates Embassy in press and political affairs, and my dad was a businessman and he traveled all around the world. And so we never really wanted for her anything, even though we really didn't have much money, but we had so much love. We had this wonderful, amazing upbringing, very close to both my brother and my sister, as much as sharing a room with her was a pain. Like I said, the end of the bed thing had continued. And then I remember when I wanted to go and study dentistry, I wanted to leave home. So I had this Arab upbringing in London. I've been stuck in an Arabic school every Saturday. I mean, I had no life. It's like, I want to go. And yet my mother was so attached to me. And actually, I think this is a bit sad. So I know I'm smiling, but so she had a bit of a premonition, and she was worried that if something happens to me, at this point, she was the only breadwinner. She was holding down 3 jobs. My dad's business had been affected in the recession. Wow. And, she used all her money to kind of try and send us to school and to private school. And I got scholarships to sixth form college and worked in the library and other jobs and so on. And she just said, look, if something happens to me, I would be so worried, that you would be stuck somewhere and financially we couldn't help you and support you. So that was the sob story. So I agreed to go not to, I think it was Sheffield, Cardiff and Bristol were my out of London choices. I didn't go to King's. I chose to go to the London, which was at the time just seemed so down to earth and friendly. I lived in West London. Barts was in the East, travelled on the Central Line every day till the end of my first year. And then my second year, I finally got my freedom. And I was like, I really need to leave home. So that's what happened. But actually, my mother's premonition came true, and she did developed breast cancer in my 3rd year of uni. And then in my VT year, I went to spend it in Canterbury. But I was back and forth all the time because she was really sick. And then she did sadly die that year.
Oh, wow.
When I was
very sad.
3. So I think that shaped my life significantly as well in terms of
I can imagine.
I then made in my career. Everybody left home. My dad couldn't take it anymore, so he left the country and moved off to Tunisia to run a hotel business that a friend offered him because staying in England was too painful. Wow. My brother moved in with his girlfriend. My sister got married. And I joke because I say I was left home alone with the parrot.
Nice.
Who proceeded to live till a grand old year of 35, this lovely little African grey who died in 2012.
Did it swear?
He told me to make tea in Arabic.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's impressive. In Arabic, that is impressive.
Yeah. And he would tell himself when he was being naughty, again in Arabic. So not
but
quite.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Because I guess anything that's going to mimic is going to mimic in the language it hears.
There you go.
If it's an Arabic house, it would be an Arabic speaking parrot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And weirdly, I would speak Arabic to my parents, but English to my brother and my sister. I think in English it was a little bit odd. So that was me. That's
a bit random going to Tunisia, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
What's
so I was saying it's a bit random going to Tunisia.
Yeah, well, this friend had a hotel business. He's got hotels all over the world, and he had a vacancy where he needed someone to go and manage the company that ran the hotel and other things. So he was like, well, if if you want, come and stay here. And my dad still lives in this hotel suite. He came back briefly at some point, I think when I got married, for 5 years, and then he went away again. So best part of now 25 years, Tunisia.
Wow. And do you go to see him, I assume?
I do. So it's, I've got three, well, not obviously, I have 3 children now who are all teenagers, and they've grown up thinking that was their grandfather's house, this lovely big 5-star hotel. So it's great. We have family reunions. I don't have to share a room with my darling sister. We each have separate rooms, so nobody falls out. And the 3 of us descend with all of our kids and have this wonderful quality time with my dad, which is amazing.
That's fabulous. Family time's brilliant.
Yeah, it's funny how you describe your childhood, and I think we're going through a new generation that's very different. So we've had lots of people on the podcast that have shared a similar story, and similar in the sense that their parents came from not a lot, had to work really hard to make ends meet, and they then have their children, in this case you, who then education becomes really important, and they want you to have a better life than the life they had. So you then go on and get a professional qualification, move into dentistry, and dentistry rewards quite well. The financial returns from dentistry are pretty good, and I think we're in a phase now where we've gone through the generation of people who came to the UK, had a very tough life, wanted their children to have a better life, but now have their kids, the next generation. And I think about my own children, I don't think they have any idea as to how hard it was for their grandparents or us as their parents, because things have just moved on and changed so quickly. And it gets lost in the journey somehow, doesn't it? Because you obviously lived it firsthand, whereas I doubt that your children can really comprehend what it would have been like for you living up, but also for their grandparents.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, my school photos, I'm in the same clothes my brother was in, a year before.
Yeah.
I got the same little V-neck 70s pullover, and then the same dresses that my sister wore. But what I have tried to do with my kids actually is really let them know that history, right? History, what's history? History is his story. So what is the story I can tell my children? And therefore brought them up to really value money, to value hard work, but also to value the balance. Because I don't think I had it, and none of them want to do dentistry. Surprise, surprise! Because they saw just how hard I have worked and the lifestyle.
What do they want to do?
So my oldest is hopefully going off to Loughborough to do marketing and business.
Okay,
brilliant. I've already said, okay, you've got a job here then. My daughter possibly chemical engineering, because I think she's interested in making makeup.
Okay.
And the youngest, who knows, I think he's on the line of an astrophysicist of some kind.
You say for yourself that your parents pushed you into dentistry. Were you a willing participant, or were you press ganged? I only think in the context of young people now, you kind of have to choose your GCSEs when you're 13, 14. That then sets the path for A-levels, that then sets the path for university. I think that's a massive pressure and expectation on young people. So where were you at in terms of the decision that you were needing to make? Did your parents heavily influence you in a positive way, or did you feel that you were kind of kicking and screaming into dentistry?
Well, actually, for some reason, they were obsessed with the idea of engineering. Right. And I remember sitting there in school watching these videos on engineering, thinking, I still don't get it. I don't understand. Like, what is this whole engineering thing? And they wanted the same for my brother. And so my brother had already paved the way for going down his own path and decided, I'm not doing engineering, I'm going to do economics. And I was a real maths whiz. So I was wanting to do something like maths and operational research, or then I was going to mix sciences with business. And then actually it wasn't so much my parents pushing me into dentistry. It was the overarching culture that I came from a very highly educated family. All the women in my family, everybody in Bahrain, you can't get away with one degree. Everyone would have a master's or a PhD or even 2 PhDs. So it was more the surrounding of what was normal. And I ended up thinking, well, okay, if I go and do this 3-year degree, then what am I going to do? I'm still going to, at that point, you don't really want to study, do you? But then I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have to do a master's degree and then this and that. And I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. And my aunt was actually a specialist periodontist. And she was an influence. And then I thought, okay, I'll explore, I'll humor my parents. I remember even having a stupid thought like, but I like having long nails and I don't want to have to cut them. And 5 years of study, really? It's typical, like 17, 18-year-old
Yeah.
girl. So I went to see, and I know this guy still, and we were family friends, and friends of I went to see them, and I always remember what he said. And he just said, if you're in the surgery and you see a set of teeth walking towards you, this is not the career for you. You will be bored stiff. But if you see a human being and you like that, then you will have a career for life.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's nice.
That's really interesting, because I had a professor who said he saw the when they were talking about patient, he said they're just a biological way of getting a set of teeth into my surgery. And it was quite interesting. That was his view about it. I mean, it was an old school, but it's quite interesting.
But yours is the other end of that spectrum, which is it's a person with feelings and emotions and a family. And by the way, can you please help me with my teeth?
Oh, with my oral health, as we really like to say.
Yes.
So that we actually understand bringing the mouth back into the body.
Yeah.
And I guess that's I was always into that. And that's what's always shaped my subsequent choices. So they didn't really push me, but they were obviously delighted that then was my choice. And yes, again, then you've got the whole typical Arab parents. We'd go to all these receptions. Like I said, my mother worked for an embassy, right? And my dad would proudly parade me around. This is my daughter, the dentist. This is my daughter, the dentist. This is my daughter, the dentist. So you can imagine like my fear when I retrained as a coach to think he's not going to be going around saying, this is my daughter, the coach. Fortunately, he does now, because it's like, well, this is my daughter, the best-selling author and the coach and the speaker. And she's been on TV and radio. And I'm like, okay, great. As long as I please my dad, that's fine.
That's enough. Going back to studying at dental school, what was dental school experience like? You were at Barts. I appreciate in the context of what you said about your mum. Obviously, your mum wasn't well, but how was dental school through that period?
Probably still the best years of my life. In one respect, because I've done a lot of growth and development on myself and realized deep down I had a lot of stuff I needed to deal with, and so I was clearly masking a lot by working incredibly hard. And I'm happy to share that in a minute. But I had great friends who I am still brilliant friends with today, who I absolutely adore. I was student president. I was always the year reps, and then I was president of the Dental Society. And we in those days we were allowed to talk about alcohol, so we used to run what we called the dental beer race. So we ran, that was a 26 pub beer race all around Whitechapel and Mile End.
Wow,
of course, you had to do a test run.
Yes.
Yeah, just to make sure it's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
So, and I had a great team around me, and I loved it. And I remember even then in my inaugural speech, I remember, rather to the chagrin of some of the people in the year above, putting up videos of them kind of having a great time and being drunk and all the rest of it. Bear in mind, you've got the dean of the dental school at this event as well. But my point was, there's got to be more to life than just work and study. So when our friends came around and said, oh, do you want to go to the library? That was code name for the pub next door. And, but we had a good time, and we had wonderful friends, and it wasn't all about studying and working so hard. There really was balance and fun.
That's
it needs to
hear.
be fun. I think. It's just my son. He went to university, and he openly admits that he might have had a little bit too much fun in the first year and a half, and then it was only his sisters who said, "If we get higher grades than you, you're never going to live it down." But I think it does need to be fun, doesn't it? Life needs to be a balance. You mentioned it earlier on. It needs to be a balance.
Yeah. So you finished at dental school, and then perhaps there's a link back to your aunt here in Bahrain, because you decided to specialise in.
How did you come to the perio bit?
Yeah, well, actually, that wasn't the reason. Although I did go and do my elective in Bahrain, and I probably did more. My uncle's the minister to health, so he got me a special license, and I probably did more dentistry.
Good to know people in the right
really
places.
Nicely dropped in there.
Really good. It's like, wait, how did you get to fix people's teeth? I'm working in my aunt's clinic, and I probably did more in those 4 weeks in Bahrain than I probably had in in the entire 4th and 5th year of dental school. So I came back very confident. The link to perio wasn't so much from my aunt, actually. It was a case of this high standard that was ingrained within me, that was part of me. It's just, I can't just sit here and just settle down and be a general practitioner. And my vocational trainer, and I will definitely give him a shout out, Ashley Watson, who is amazing, and Derek Watson on the Canterbury scheme. And they were absolutely fantastic. And Ashley particularly just instilled in me the quality that you want to do and how much you care for your patients and quality of treatment. So I never came out with this kind of bash the Nash attitude. I don't think that happens anymore, but it was a term we used, wasn't it? But then I just thought, well, I need something more. So I started studying. At that point, my mum was alive, so she was really excited about, thought I was going to get you in an MFDS and go on to do something else. And I just realized I wasn't happy in general practice, and I was trying to settle because obviously my mum had died and I was actually engaged to someone, a dentist, and I thought, okay, I'd just try and settle, and I couldn't settle. It just wasn't within me. So it was a case of, okay, I have to do something more. And then it was a case of thinking, what is it you enjoy, Rana? What did you enjoy at dental school more than anything? And for me, just like maths at A level, for me, perio just made complete sense. It was the one discipline I absolutely loved. Which I know is contradictory because so many students, I've taught students, say it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
But to me, it just, well, maybe it was the numbers thing, pocket charts all the time, but it just made complete sense. And there was this human element, which obviously is what's then taken my career to a much deeper level.
It is fascinating, isn't it? When you find out, you speak to, a perio who loves perio, and other people are like, pfft. And you talk to an endo who loves endo, and other people are like, oh, how could you do that all day? I love the fact that they're in dentistry, there's some people who really love general dentistry, and then there's the specialists who really love the specialism that they do. And I think it's brilliant that you've got that broad range. You all start from the same place, really, but some people say, well, I want to do something different. That's fascinating.
But you took it to another level, didn't you? Because it wasn't just that you then got these higher level specialist qualifications. You then set up 2 specialist practices in 2004 and 2009, selling out to Dentex in 2018. So there's a real business entrepreneurial side to you as well, isn't it? It's not just doubling down on the clinical side.
So for me, autonomy was definitely a big value. I needed to do things my way, to my standard. So I didn't want to be victim to anyone else's choices. And that's what really, and freedom is one of my huge values as well. So having my own practice was exactly that. And then that was 2004, 2009, I ended up setting up a second practice closer to home, and so I was literally going around a building site with one baby against my chest and one trolley, because they're like 16 months apart, around this building site, setting up this practice that was going to be mine. And it was, and this was Alpha Perio, Buckhurst Hill, and it was absolutely fantastic. But we started off very small, it was just a very small team. It was myself, my practice manager, and my nurse who stayed with me then for 11 years. And so it was happy. And I built up a community, and I built up an entire community. We used to run events where we'd have 60 to 70 dentists come in the middle of the week for an evening event. Exactly. I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore, does it? Such was kind of the following, the respect, and referrals rolling in all the time. It was brilliant. And I often say this to some of my practices that I work with, the clients that I work with, when they're really struggling. I say, sometimes you're a victim of your own success. And that's what happened. I was very busy. I was busy in the clinic. I had 3 kids. I was traveling all around the world, lecturing and speaking. I'd become this global pioneer with the use of lasers. I was writing research papers. I was working in America with the laser company in the evenings. It was just insane. And I didn't have time to sit there and train my team, train my associates in how to convert the way I converted. Train my receptionists in how I wanted them to speak. And I was relying on other people, but I was relying on other people who weren't the right people to rely, because they hadn't been trained either. And when I say that, I would have an admin day, but at that point, my dentists are planning on trying to work with patients, or my hygienists want to work with patients because that's the way they're paid. So they don't want to spend time watching me in the surgery and hearing how I do it. And this is a challenge that really happens today a lot as well. So I'd had enough by that point, and my choice to sell was, it was just like going through a tunnel all the time, being on autopilot, being there till 8 o'clock at night. But again, it was my escape because, like I said, I got divorced as well. So working really hard again was a really good distraction on the times when I didn't have my kids. But I became sick. So that was the final call, and I alluded to something when I was talking about being in dental school, thinking I think underneath the surface I wasn't quite right.
You did,
And there were kind of there were traumas that I hadn't. So I was sexually abused when I was 12 years old. Through to the age of 14, but I blocked it out and I wasn't even aware. I mean, I did have honestly, I had a really happy childhood. So, this went on and it came back to me in my 20s and I never really dealt with it. So I think this aspect of lack of self-love and therefore masking it by being this amazing, incredible career person was a big driver that I wasn't aware of at the time. And of course, eventually when you don't deal with stuff and you just keep adding on the rubbish, it comes back to bite you. So that obviously had choices in terms of the relationships that I had, the marriage that I had. And so by the time I was then in my 40s, I was thinking, I am messed up. Maybe I should really try and sort this rubbish out once and for all. And I tried with a counselor, and that was just talking about problems. And I mean, I could talk to anybody, but without tapping into my emotions at that point. So then I actually got a coach. I was going off to Canada to lecture, and I thought, I want to try something different, something a bit self-soothing. And I came across this coach, and she became my coach for 6 months. She was brilliant. And the first thing she said to me was, we're going to take a deep dive into finding out who Rana actually is. And I thought, wow, gosh, it was just like a huge blanket being put on me because I've been so busy all the time. And we are, God, especially in the dental profession, with what we think we should do.
When she said that to you, did you instinctively know what the answer was, or was it going to be a discovery for you as well?
Yeah, I was just like, wow, this is going to be amazing. What does she even mean by that? I mean, when she started talking about values, and we hear this word so often anymore, it's overdone. But it's like, I don't know what my values are. I don't know who I am. Wow, this is going to be amazing. This person's going to reveal this to me. So through this coaching journey, one of the realizations we got to was, Rana, you're still a leader. You don't need to be a practice owner to be a leader. By then, like I said, I was traveling all around the world. It was expected of you. You must have your own practice and things as well. So it was that. Plus, like I said, I became sick. I got to the point where I'd be sitting there with patients. My heart rate would be well over 100 at rest. I'd have episodes where I'd have to leave my patients and my team would find me lying on the floor in the staff room. And then trying to walk home and not able to. Quite literally, it would feel like my legs were so heavy. I was almost having I was having a heart attack. And it wasn't a panic attack. And when I went to the cardiologist with my results, having had this ECG for 7 days, and I'd had these tests before, all through my pregnancies as well. And I went in with the usual, it's nothing, is it? I'm absolutely fine. Again, so dentist-like. And he was like, not so sure about that, actually. And I want you to go and have a look at this condition on the internet. It's not widely accepted yet, but it's something that's called POTS. So I went home and he said, if this doesn't work, if you don't change your ways, basically, we're going to have to look at lifetime medication, surgical stockings, and a massive change of lifestyle. I went and had a look at this website about POTS, and there were people like me on there, really busy, high flyers, love to hike and climb mountains, which is what I love to do all the time. And their lives had literally ended. They couldn't get out of bed. They couldn't function.
Wow.
I just bought a townhouse, and it was saying you're probably going to need to live in a bungalow and make all these lifestyle choices. My kids loved it because I couldn't get all worked up because they knew if I got really angry, I'd be on the floor again. And it was just, I mean, I joke about it, but it was a very, very dark, difficult time.
It's hard.
And at the same time, still running a business going to work.
What's interesting, when I looked at the timeline of you setting up your first practice in 2004, second one 2009, selling in 2018, we have this notion about owner fatigue, which is lots of principals do their thing for 10, 12 years and then just like, I'm done. And they can't attribute it to one particular thing, but they just get to this point of exhaustion where it's just all too much. They just don't want to go on owning and running a business anymore. And lots of people fall into this 10 to 12 year window. I find it fascinating that your window was similar, but with a very different reason. So, like I say, the time frame, there's a tick in that box, but the reason for it for you was very specific, as opposed to for lots of practice owners, they just don't quite know. And the coach you had in the process you went through, I think it probably links to the shirt you're wearing today, because did your coach use the nail it kind of process with you? And was that the thing that kind of helped you get through that process?
No, she used different processes. I actually think I coach on a much deeper level now.
Right.
So, because coaching is like you have to stretch someone to really grow. I mean, it's a bit like ortho retainers. Like you've got to stretch it. You've got to stretch those ligaments. You stretch an elastic band. You've got to keep it stretched so you don't bounce back. And I certainly then had episodes of bouncing back into my old ways, what I used to call a wantaholic way. Like you're so addicted to wanting, because that's the dopamine hit every time you get something or achieve something or get an accolade, so you feel better about yourself. And it's about finding a way to have this inner joy inside you, regardless of the circumstances, and without needing things to happen to actually wake up with joy and have it all day long. So then she used different processes like coaching throughout. The nail it is a process, but it's a process I've developed to systemize everything that encompasses what optimal performance actually is.
I think the whole thing about people's identity is fascinating, that they link their identity potentially to quite often to something, as opposed to themselves.
And often it's the work they do. And it's a bit like you were saying how proud your father was when he said, "Meet my daughter, the dentist." You know, and we all do it, because when you meet somebody for the first time, the most common question you ask somebody is,
three questions.
What do you do? What do you do?
So what you're doing is you're categorizing this person in terms of where do they fit in terms of this kind of hierarchy. It's what do you do? You know, you don't kind of say, tell me about your family.
No,
you know, where did you last go on holiday? Yeah, have you got some nice walks near you? We don't ask those questions. Yeah,
they, you know, when they retire, they sort of struggle. What do you do? I'm retired, and it's almost like, oh. Whereas the fact is, they're still the same person. They just don't happen to be working. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah. So
when I introduce myself to people, or when I start to talk to someone, I say, "Who are you?" And then they might start with the dentist. I'm like, no. Who are you? And it really does. It riles people a little bit. And then
she's one of those annoying people.
Realize. What was that, Chris? I'm one of those.
I said, you're one of those annoying people. Who are you? My name's Chris. No. Who are you? Oh, bugger.
Who are you? Who are you at your core? Really? Like, how do you resonate? Yeah.
Fascinating. I think it's fascinating.
And I think the truth is, not a lot of people genuinely know. A bit like when your coach said to you, "We're going to find out who you are." It's like, I think because people are quite busy and because they have so much structure and routine, they don't actually have much time and space, or in many cases need to answer those questions until something happens where there's perhaps a stumble in the road, and you go, okay, right, I need some framework to kind of get through this. That's 100%. When understanding who you are becomes way more important.
I think the great thing is that you actually identified it and did something. You know, the danger is you could have just kept having your episodes, couldn't you? And you could have just kept going on that because that's the way things are, without actually addressing it. And I think there's so many people, hopefully people listening, well, not hopefully people listening, but if there are people listening, the answer is you can do something about it, but you actually have to do something.
Yeah, exactly. So really, you might have heard this phrase, you know, the pain of people only really change when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens. So, and often what will happen is you will act, you'll think, oh yeah, I really should do something about this. I mean, like even not even lifestyle stuff. Let's take a dentist who goes on a clinical course, right? They'll do something like hopefully on a Monday morning or for that week, but then they'll sink back into their old ways because they're not stretched for long enough, right? Even though they know that might be good for them. And so exactly the same in life. We do that all the time. You know, yeah, I really should lose some weight because I've just been to the doctor and they've told me I'm pre-diabetic. or I've got back pain, or yes, I really do need to put my phone away so that I can sleep better because it's affecting my concentration, and in affecting my concentration, I'm not showing up as my best for my patients, or my eyes going off the ball, and if I carry on like this, I might end up getting complaints. Or I've had a GDC complaint. I mean, gosh, in dentistry, right? I've had a complaint against me, and then suddenly we start doing everything the right way. But how long does it actually last? And that is choice. But you have to remember what that pain was like, and remember you're not going to go there. And interestingly, people will usually make change due to the pain, but they cannot maintain the change due to the pain. They then need to find something in front of them to reward them to head towards. So the pain kind of gets you out, but then if you still don't have a direction, you will sink back into your old ways.
Well, I suppose the change relieves the pain. So because you're no longer in pain anymore, you feel okay. And that's the temptation to slip back, isn't it? So tell us about, you set up MedDent, the Leadership and Wellbeing Academy. And what's the relationship between MedDent and Nail It? Do they work together? Because you do a variety of things. Can you just sort of talk us through kind of where you're at now in terms of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, the reasoning behind that, so obviously I became a coach. I've been coaching for years, written books, and I went off and I thought, I don't want anything to do with dentistry anymore. And dentists aren't ready for me. And went and worked to a lot of that in the business world, albeit still doing clinical work in dentistry. And then I think the dentistry is ready for this now. I think there's enough talk about burnout and stress and health and lifestyle to appreciate it. So I decided, okay, let me bring Nail It into medicine and dentistry. So Nail It is a formula. Nail It is it's actually 38 components, but each letter of Nail It, so 6 letters, is 6 subsystems that makes up this ultimate achievement formula, which is optimal performance, what I call really high levels of balance, productivity, and happiness. Where we all really want to be, right? And that is optimal performance. When you are a high performer, which so many dentists are, the reality is you are very likely to burn out. Optimal performance is about sustaining those high levels of success once you achieve them in the first place. So that's the system, and MedDent uses that system. So in the training that we do, I then use the Nail It system in all of the events, in all of the training, because it's part of its kind of USP is all training is very experiential, it's fun, it's challenging, it's evocative, and it results in sustainable change. So we use all of that in our training, depending what memberships or bespoke training that we do.
Fine. And that's all good. But then you've also got Breathe Dental Wellness as well. just put another spanner in the works. So what's that aspect?
So with all of that passion that I have for the dental industry and giving back, and my own life story, some of which I've shared with you today, the chief dental officer turned out they needed a resource to be able to signpost the dental profession to. And this is all the dental profession, not just dentists. So our hygienists, our therapists, our technicians, dental industry, you guys, appreciating that actually it massively impacts on performance, it impacts on patient care, it impacts on health, it impacts on well-being. It has a multitude of effects. It impacts on financial health, on how good you are with your business. It impacts on all your other relationships and so on. So when he wanted to do this, the original signposting was literally kind of like an A4 sheet with you can go and see X, Y, Z for all these different things. So we went to him and we said, look, I was in the process of building the MedDent platform. This is my area of expertise. Please let us do it. So in collaboration with them, I created this other acronym called Breathe. So Breathe Dental Wellness. And so it covers every single aspect of well-being. And I have to say, well-being is about being well. This isn't just about yoga and stretching and And the kind of, it's not the soft term of well-being. This is hardcore well-being. This is well-being that's going to give you a balanced, successful, productive, happy life by mastering leadership and performance as well. So breathe stands for, so it's all about breath work, stress reduction, mindfulness. The R is all about re-energizing. So everything to do with coaching, mentoring, getting your energy back, getting rid of all the sludge so you've got energy inside to really show up and grow. The E is all about emotional regulation. So in there, of course, you've got communication, boundaries, and emotional intelligence, which is the massive kind of secret sauce to any success, really. The A is all about addiction, which is a massive problem we know we have in healthcare. So how can we actually really give you advice and help with that? T is all about therapy. H is healthy. So healthy body, healthy diet and nutrition, healthy lifestyle, and healthy relationships. And the E is economic, so financial health, which there's a lot of stigma. Why should we be talking about that? But again, it's a huge stress. So what we wanted to do on this platform was answer those questions. Like, if I'm a dentist, how do I know what therapist to go and see? So if I go on the therapy page, there's videos on there that say to me, oh, okay, well, this is the types of therapy, like ABC, CBT, ACT, like what are all these things? And what should I be looking for? And what might help me? What might suit me? If I go onto the healthy page, okay, right, this is somebody who's talking about my specific lifestyle in the dental industry, not just giving me generic advice that I can read on the internet. The B, I've interviewed some fantastic breathwork specialists, but she tailored it to the dental industry, to your lifestyle, so it's not generic habits. And the same with mindfulness experts. So the idea is this entire platform is entirely free for the whole of the dental industry to support well-being. And of course, we know supporting well-being supports your lifestyle in every other way. So it has videos, it has information, it has downloadable resources, it has a chatbot you can interact with, you can reach out to us for support and help. It literally has everything on there. And then you have a carousel at the end of every page, which signposts you every page to 20 to 30 other resources or organizations and tells you what those organizations could do. And you literally tap the button and you can go to those people's websites or call them so that you have support in every way.
Sounds brilliant. It makes sense why Jason Wong would get behind something like that as well, because it's much needed in the profession. And it's nice to hear that it's not purely for practice owners or associates. It's a profession-wide resource. Yeah, profession-wide, which is brilliant.
Really tried to make that important, because it's even like with business growth and business growth coaches, they're all about practice owners. Well, what about all the people who are associates? What about all the people who are nurses? What about all the therapists? What about all the hygienists? Like, what's there for them? So it does offer the option to sign up to MedDent, which is a completely free silver membership. But on that, then you have all of the videos and all of the PDFs, and you get like our regular newsletter and tips, so that we really start embracing performance and well-being.
And it is an ongoing process as well. An interesting fact about you, and talking to you today, you've got a lot of energy and passion. So this doesn't come as a particular surprise, but your heartbeat can run up to 200 beats a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to you today, it doesn't surprise me one bit, because I bet you're resting at about 120.
I rest at about 52 actually, because I'm
wow, a massive range. Yeah.
But I like to assume it's because I'm so fit. I was actually an aerobics instructor when I went through dental school. That was helped pay my way teaching aerobics and fitness. So from my teens, so I've always been very, very cardio fit anyway. But and yes, when I do HIIT training, I will push over 200. And they say actually your max heart rate should be roughly 220 minus your age. So mine, I'm 51 now, so mine should be 169. But I'm just fit.
Very impressive. Very impressive. Do you I assume, but do you treat patients anymore or not?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's really important, because given everything I do with all the training and the leadership training and the support I give to the dental profession, I think if I wasn't in it, it would feel a little bit inauthentic. So I still do 6 to 8 days, and I still do some clinical teaching as well every month. but my passion is definitely the other. And I've worked in every aspect of dentistry.
Yeah.
In NHS, private, practice owner, associate, teacher, consultant, professor, industry, community, the lot, right? So I think I'm pretty well equipped to be able to advise and mentor most of those areas. But I think unless your finger's on the pulse, because it's always changing, isn't it? Then even the trends of how patients behave is always changing. I think it's really important to maintain that clinical level.
You're one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to the time. We've got two very, very important questions that we need to ask you. The first one we have for you is, you are a fly on the wall. Which wall are you hanging on? Who's there? What's going on?
It's the lorry driver.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, it's a little bit political about the current times, but I would love to be in the Oval Office with Donald Trump right now, just finding out where on earth his thought process is at, and if he actually genuinely makes his actions from care or maliciousness. It's quite bizarre.
It's a very interesting time.
I think the assumption is he has a thought process.
Yeah. I think 6 months from now, either people are going to go, he's a genius, and he's actually, elevated the United States to a point where it hasn't been for a long while, or it's going to be absolute carnage and there's going to be a trade war, which is going to be difficult for the planet. And I don't think we're going to know for 6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It would be very, very interesting. And the follow-up is, you get the opportunity to meet somebody, sit down, have a cup of coffee, glass of wine, whatever your drink of choice is.
Living or dead,
you can sit down. Who would you sit down with?
I'd actually bring two people together now.
Okay.
Can I do that? They're both.
Yeah, there are rules. Most rules are there to be broken anyway. We'll break
exactly. Let's break rules. We don't believe in rules. Definitely not. Not if you have value freedom. And it's Robin Sharma and the Dalai Lama.
Oh, okay.
So they're not that different.
No.
Robin Sharma is the author of The Monk That Sold His Ferrari, right? So, and he was probably the first person I started. That's what really got me into my personal development journey.
Right.
Okay.
And the book, reading those books, and on that part of that, because he talks about personal development, but in a beautiful, philosophical, also spiritual way, which is very much how I approach things as well, with a level of consciousness. And of course, the Dalai Lama is the same. I'm just listening to his book that they've done with Desmond Tutu called Joy. And it's just an absolute delight to listen to. And obviously I know all those principles. I've heard them all before, but oh God, I would love to get in a room with the two of them and be a fellow guru. It would be amazing.
That'd be brilliant.
Excellent.
Rana, it's been an absolute joy. We've skittled through so much, and I wish you well. And I think where you've moved to in terms of your career, you feel like the right person at the right time in the right place. It sounds like your own personal experience and what you've been through and what you've created feels like it's turning up in dentistry at the right time. And I wish you well with it.
Thank you. I think, you know what, sometimes and this is a good tip for any listeners who have gone through negative life events or pain, it's very hard to, at that time, to experience it and think there is a purpose and a meaning and an opportunity here. But if you look back a year, 2 years, 3 years, there will always be a reason why you think that has benefited you. So actually, I really try to do that now. If you're going through anything, think, what could the opportunity or learning be here? And of course, we're in a serving, loving profession, right? So let's start actually looking after each other as well. So yeah, everything I've been through has definitely given me purpose. So thank you so much for letting me share that today.
No, it's brilliant.
It's been really good
for a reason.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Keep well. Look after yourself. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.